Okay, so right here I have about three main mother of thousands, uh, and they're each at different stages. I've got this little one here that's maybe a month or so, maybe two, uh, since I planted it. This one is not too much older, a little bit older. Um, and this middle one is the oldest. And basically, with this one, it got to about double this height. And I basically cut off the top of it, or cut it in half. And what you can do with that, if you want, is plant that top half, and the part that was severed will become where the roots are, basically. And the other thing about this is that when you do cut it like that, just cut the top off, it will put out some new, it'll kind of branch out, I guess. And in my experience, usually when it does this, it'll look like the plant will, just be this one stalk, and then split into two or three different ones at the top. But what's happened in the past with my plant, at least, is that these will start to grow, but then if you look really closely, there's some roots coming out. And basically, these little plantlets, I guess, they'll grow on this mother plant for now, and either fall off when they get bigger, or you can just pick them off and plant them, and they'll grow into their own whole new plant, like this. The other thing is that usually when these get bigger or they dry out, the plants will put out little, very tiny plantlets on the end of each of their leaves, and these can be pulled off, or usually they just fall off on their own. And that's what these are down here in the pot. And these can all grow into their own plants. There's a little one here that's kind of taking off on its own. Some of the things about this plant, I guess, is that in some areas of like the Southwest in the United States, it's more of a nuisance. It's basically a weed there. So it's best not to grow that in those areas, because it'll take off, and if it gets outside anywhere, it'll basically go off on its own and just keep making thousands of new plants, as the name says, basically. And yeah, you don't want that to happen. So I live in an area with harsher winters, where it gets cold enough that if these did happen to get outside, one summer, then they would definitely be killed off in the winter and not come back the following spring or summer. So that's one thing to watch out for. I've had this plant for maybe 4 years. I'm not sure if this is the exact plant that I started with, but it's definitely at least a clone of the original plant, because basically as I said before, I keep, when it gets too tall, even for the little stick that's keeping it upright, every time it gets too tall, I just cut off the top, and usually the top becomes my new plant, and the old half that it was cut off from maybe dies, or I just have let it die, let it wither up. It takes a lot of not watering this for it to die. I've almost never had a plant completely die because of it drying up. So in that regard, that's just another reason why it's a very easy plant to take care of. You could, not water this plant. You could cut it up, cut it back, do all kinds of things to it, and it'll find a way to keep growing, or to have its cuttings and plantlets always come back. So this is one that it's fun to grow, but it is a plant that's once you've grown a couple, you kind of know what it does. I think it's an annual in the wild. Maybe even it might be able to grow for more than a year in warmer areas, but I'm not really sure. The other thing is, supposedly during the winter or spring, the mother of thousands can put out some flowers. I've only seen pictures of the flowers. I've never, in the 4 or so years I've had it, gotten it to flower. So I've tried different things. I've kept multiple, I guess, clones of it at a time, of the original plant, and I've never had one flower or do anything really out of the ordinary. So yeah, just to wrap this up, the mother of thousands, or mother of millions as some call it, it's a fun plant to grow. It's easy to propagate, but like I said, you gotta be careful that it doesn't become invasive. So, hope you enjoyed.